This live stream brought to you by the Excelsior Citizen and these generous sponsors. The Simmons Sales Team, your hometown realtors. Our Excelsior Springs Hospital, where better care is right in your backyard. Find out how you can advertise with Excelsior Springs' #1 community resource. Visit excelsiorcitizen.com today.
He's good. We'll be taking a long time. Sure enough, there will be a fiber optic line or something.
Okay. We will open our city council meeting. And at this time, we have Deacon Alan Bandy of St. Anne's who will give us our opening.
Heavenly Father, we ask you this evening to bless this city council and allow them knowledge, understanding, and wisdom as they look at the matters before them this evening. Help them to always do what is right in your name and what is good for all of the residents of our city. These things we ask in your name, Lord Jesus. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Yes. Okay, roll call, Shannon.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilman Spahn,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Are there visitors this evening who would like to address the council that are not on the agenda? Okay. Consideration, amended agenda. We have minutes of the regular city council meeting of February 6th, 2023.
I move we approve the meeting minutes of the regular city council meeting of February 6, 2023.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilman Spahn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Consideration of agenda.
I make a motion we approve the consideration of the agenda.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon.
Councilman Spahn,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay, our first item on the agenda is a presentation by Lindsay Baxter for Placer AI fourth quarter report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I will be relatively brief on the fourth quarter analysis since we have a lot of other information to cover in the annual reports. Now, okay. So on the fourth quarter, we will scroll through. As you will see, we had just under 100,000 visits made up by just over 45,000 visitors during the fourth quarter. You will see on the next page that number is down. As I shared Friday, that matches our sales tax deposits for that same period. Things slowed down a little bit. It very much looks like we had a gigantic resurgence during 2021, and then we have started to mellow slightly back out like we were in late 2020 when we started slowing down COVID protocols and those kinds of items. The data takeaways as far as the downtown hours of visitation are concerned, These remain consistent with all of the other quarters and annual reports we have looked at. There has not been much change in those hours. As you can see, the number of visits is much higher on this page than in the previous. That is because a visit in this section of data is constituted by 15 minutes. So if they stay 16 minutes, it's 2 visits. Again, a comparison in day-by-day breakdown. You can see, obviously, as the visitation was down, 2022 is going to be down in the fourth quarter compared to that of 2021. Again, this area, the length of stay for those visits is very consistent with all of the other reports that we have looked at through the year. Our zip code visitation has again stayed the same. You can see that all Kansas City zip codes equal 11%. I will say when we first secured this software a little under a year ago, at that time the zip code information that was provided only included a list of 100. Since then they've expanded their software and now we get a full list of zip codes, which is why it now includes 345 zip codes, or excuse me, 593 visitors, 593 zip codes came to Excelsior Springs. Of that 593, 345 were outside of the state of Missouri, and there you can see a corresponding map. And then on the list is the top 11 zip codes that come here frequently. Trade area coverage map, how far do people drive from to get to us is what this map indicates. Again, a very similar pattern comparing to previous quarters. We won't spend a lot of time on the event analysis, but as promised in our economic development agreement, we did supply you with fourth quarter event analysis that included which way to the wine. It was a first year event, so we do not have comparative data for that, but we did have over 2,400 visitors. Again, very similar approach to all of this information. So if it is okay with you all, I'll kind of speed through these. This is the only page for the event analysis that's different from the annual. It breaks down the ethnicities that come to the events, the average household income, which was $71,000, and then we include prior and post locations when they leave the district. Christmas kickoff, same information. We had just over 5,000 different visits that came from the same amount of visitors, so they came down for one of the events and they stayed the duration, or they stayed most likely for the parade on that day. Higher Excelsior Springs attendance on this event than some of our others. Same concept of the curve on distance traveled by home location. Again, ethnicity, average household income, 65,000, then their post and prior locations. As you will see there, the home is slightly elevated because most of those are our local residents that come in to enjoy that event. And then not quite lastly, Small Business Saturday was another one. Real quick, we had just over 1,600 people that came for that event. Perception was that our visitation had increased to the eye, but the data suggested slightly differently. We had slightly mixed reviews from businesses on whether it was overly beneficial or not, but there was a positive economic impact in our surveying. This one is slightly more skewed in that you can see a lot of our visitors came from closer locations for this event, which makes sense because it's a nationally supported Shop Local campaign. And the, again, average household income, ethnicity, post and prior locations for that event. Then last one is Lane of Lights. This one looks slightly different because it is a traffic pin. So you can see we had 16,533 visits that came from 14,445 visitors. This year's donations were equal to $24,919.73. That number is slightly down from COVID cautionary years when that seemed to be a safe trip for people to do through the holiday season. Monday, Tuesday, day of the week breakdown that you can see. As well as the hourly impressions on this one. So not very many people come through as we're starting to close, but the 6 and 7 o'clock hour are heightened. Again, very consistent breakdown, but if you look at the map, you can see most of our visitation comes from those who are closer. Distance traveled from home location, average household income, ethnicity, post and prior locations. If there are no questions on that one, we can move on to the annual report for Placer AI. Perfect. Thank you, Susan. During this report, I spent much of the time breaking down the same data we've been looking at quarterly before. So here is an overview. It includes the visits, visitors, visit frequency, and sales tax, and so you can see how those correlate with one another. A lot of the items have stayed consistent, such as visitors and sales tax, while visits by individuals dropped in 2020, which I think we all expect. It did regain and move back up. The visit frequency, I would tell you to not be concerned with, because as the amount of people increase from out of state, that number is going to go down slightly. Here you can take a look at the number of yearly visits to see where they have all fallen. Again, as we've discussed, 2022 overall was down from 2021, directly attributed to our fourth quarter analysis. Number of yearly visitors, same kind of concept, lots of growth in 2022, a big bang in 2021, followed by a slight decrease in 2022. The average dwell time, it remains consistent. There is not a significant change in that figure. The visit frequency, as we discussed, has continued to drop year by year. Number of monthly visits, that's a lot of bars and a lot of lines. Outside of April of 2020, not much has really changed. The bars are a little deceiving with the difference in them. The numbers are much closer. So when we look at our monthly visits, June is consistently the most visited month in downtown, which is a direct result of multiple events such as Waterfest and Wine Festival. In 2022, 30% of June visits occurred during those two events. When you look at the visits by hour, you can see that the number continues to grow. However, the pattern remains consistent. Number of visits by day. While this is heavily attributed to the hours of operation and accessibility of downtown businesses, it too has remained relatively consistent. There were, I had shared Friday with you that we did some research regarding court because we'd seen an increase on Tuesdays, so I wanted to share that of all of those visits during Tuesdays, during 2022, only 2,449 were court-related, meaning they came to this building between the hours of 4 and 7. And that is the difference of only 4.98% of the total Tuesday traffic. Length of stay, again, behavior remains pretty consistent throughout the years. Household income, percentage of by visitor, not much of a change in these categories either. The only exceptions to note would be a slight change and that fewer individuals between the 40 and 45K and 60,000 and 75,000 are coming, and more individuals between the 100,000 and 150,000 are visiting us. Zip codes by home location. Each year the amount of visits from zip codes has increased, and with the exception of 2020, the number of out-of-state zip codes has increased at approximately the same rate. Number of visitors by distance, with the exception of some slightly elevated visitors coming from 0.7 to 3 miles during 2017 and 2018. Distance traveled by visitors to Excelsior Springs, again, has also stayed pretty consistent. That is your annual report. Are there any questions on any of the Placer data that I may have supplied to you?
I think it's really interesting to see that we are such creatures of habit, that we sort of follow the same pattern, so it's really interesting.
Yes. I kept looking like there's got to be a spike somewhere, and
Yeah.
there just weren't a lot of places to find that. And I believe in your packet, if you do have questions, you have several pages of all of the raw data with corresponding maps, should you like to review that. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Are we
Thank
ready
you,
for
Lindsay.
agenda item number 3, your annual report for downtown DEP?
I'm here again.
The Lindsay Baxter Show.
So I can say that in presenting this to you all that DEP, I don't think we've ever had so much thought about the future in our planning as we have in our efforts recently and in the near future. While I think we can all agree that downtown is not done and there is still a lot of work to do, we are in a great place. So I'm pretty excited and proud to share this report with you. You'll see some of our accomplishments. We will talk about some of our opportunities. You'll get to see some impact statistics. And then also we'll be able to recognize some of our current challenges. I hope that this report will inspire you, as well as some of our plans for 2023 that I hope to share with you. So about the Downtown Excelsior Partnership, I think everybody was a council member last year except Mark, but he's been on the board so he knows. So I will spare you, and I will just say we are a 501c3 not-for-profit organization. We are one of 7 in the state of Missouri that is a nationally accredited Main Street community. Now I will introduce you to some of our board. I believe some are here, some are not. Nate Williams is our current board president. Janine Stubbs is our board vice president. Jim McCullough is our board secretary. Jill Rickert is our board treasurer. Alan Amos is our board member. Brenda Kilgore is a board member. Kenny Slavens is a board member. Mayor Powell is our city liaison, and I think I know everybody. With all of our annual reports, we give you a financial summary of DEP's operations for the last year. You can see in the maps a breakdown of that support. All of the categories remain somewhat consistent, but slightly diversified, with the exception of our other income drastically dropped in the last year. That number dropped because we had the opportunity to sell the Victoria, which was our rental income property. So that is no longer on our budget sheet. I'm very excited to not be a landlord anymore. Our expenses, again, stayed somewhat the same. Increases were in beautification spend, economic vitality spend, operating expenses, and Main Street expenses. The other categories were down. One of the highlights that I like to note is that for every dollar that DEP receives through our public service agreement from the city of Excelsior Springs, in the last year, DEP was able to raise an additional $8.41. We had over 6.9 million in reported taxable retail sales in 2022. That was a 3.3% increase compared to 2021. And just because I like statistics, that was a 101.48% increase since the CID was established in 2014. We spent over $26,000 marketing the Downtown District and Visit Excelsior campaign. That's a 20% increase in spending compared to last year's numbers. We spent over $42,000 on downtown beautification. That's about $30,000 up from the previous year. And then DEP ticketed events had their largest economic impact based on survey responses of $247,000. I spoiled it. I had broke it out a little bit better for you guys and forgot about that. So there's your map on sales tax increases. As you can see, every year we have moved upward with the exception of 2020, and you can see the complete breakdown of comparison to previous years. Reinvestment statistics. In 2022, we had 31,124 overnight stays. I will say that those are in reported stays. We've had many Airbnbs pop up that we do not have contact information for, so we're unable to secure their data. That is still a almost 2% raise. There was just over 7.9 million in private building improvements last year. 7 million of that, as I shared, was from the Elms. But even when you just consider the $938,000, that is a 502% increase than the private investment we saw last year. A big number, and probably one of the ones I'm most proud of, are our volunteer hours of 8,350. That's the equivalent of just over $250,000. That number is up 9.5% over the past year. Our social reach statistics, we had over 161, nearly 162,000 website visitors. That's an increase of 38.8% from the previous year. They viewed just over 1 million website pages. That's an increase of 23.4%. Our social reach was 960,000, which was a slight decrease of 17%. That we are directly reflecting to Meta's change in their targeting and how you can reach people. You can't be quite as specific. And then we gained 2,725 new social media followers last year. This is a downtown business mix breakdown. We have 87 businesses located in the district. That number is down by 6 businesses compared to last year. However, we did still have a gain of 7 full-time equivalents. While we lost 6 businesses, our vacancy rate only increased by 0.3% due to business expansions and additional offerings. You can see the breakdown. Again, very consistent. Everything that dropped stayed about the same. Our other category, which includes our event venues, overnight rentals, that is relatively comparable. Our vacancy rate did increase by 0.3%. But of that 17.1%, 35% of them are under construction, 20% are available for lease, and 15% are for sale. In 2022, DEP is excited to share that we were able to successfully complete 69 different projects. Some of those that I would highlight under our various categories include ARPA facade grants. We have completed a wayfinding study. We have started the process of developing the Lithia Landing engineering. We completed a lot of mural repair. We've been able to do Placer AI. We've created economic impact studies based on events. We've continued to offer low interest loans to downtown businesses. We have worked with a consultant to secure a real estate development guide. Organization committee received and secured $200,000 in county ARPA funds to offer a county-wide marketing grant program. We received the Best Organizational Pandemic Response Award from the Missouri Main Street Connection. We updated our bylaws, we had gift card giveaways, and we launched an annual sponsorship package. Our promotion team hosted 75 event days. We added elevated experiences to those events in the form of VIP opportunities. We completed event analysis. We launched our events marketing plan. Our website team secured $32,000 for image procurement. We executed a 2022 marketing calendar. We completed our 2023 trip planner and hosted the Visit Excelsior website. Our plans for 2023 include an entertainment district, heightened tourism efforts, a lane of lights extension, wayfinding signage implementation, to partner with the city to seek community development block grant funding for streetscape rehabilitation, an organizational rebrand, packaging our marketing opportunities for our businesses, having the opportunity to compare replica and Placer AI, completing our videography and photography procurement projects. We will develop the Lithia Landing, hopefully by this fall. We will be completing our mini mural series project, and we plan to heighten our business recruitment and retention promotional materials. At this time, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Very nice. I like the plans you have for this year. There's a lot of things of interest.
There is. Thank you all for your time.
Okay. Agenda item number 4, consideration is a resolution approving the purchase of blower units from Arizin USA Corporation in the amount of $27,836.78.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. As we have 5 blower units at the wastewater treatment plant that provide air to the oxidation ditches as part of the treatment process. One has stopped working, and upon inspection of the unit, the blower motor casing has failed and needs to be replaced. We went out to bid for this with this blower motor casing and received 2 bids. The bid tab is attached. Our own staff will install the blower with assistance from JCI if needed. Once it comes in, the low bid is direct from Arizin, who makes the blower units for $27,836.78, and the resolution is attached if you have any questions.
A resolution approving the purchase of blower units from Arizin USA Corporation in the amount of $27,836.78.
I move we approve resolution number 1413, consideration of blower unit number 5 replacement at the wastewater treatment plant.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5 is an ordinance approving an agreement between the city and Excelsior Springs City Hospital.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This agreement is between the City of Excelsior Springs and the Excelsior Springs Hospital. It's for lab services. We do a 7-panel drug screening service with the hospital for new employees and random. Our rate for that is $29 per test. We normally have a lot of negative tests, and it comes back in 1 day. If we have anything non-negative, then it is received within 10 days, and the $40 charge would be sent to us to cover that fee. And this just secures and is actually, we're just asking for the approval of the memorandum of understanding.
Any questions? Okay, an ordinance approving an agreement between the city and Excelsior Springs City Hospital.
Make a motion that we take ordinance number 23-02-05, consideration of memorandum of understanding with Excelsior Springs Hospital for lab services, to second reading.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. An ordinance approving an agreement between the city and the Excelsior Springs City Hospital.
Move that we approve ordinance number 23-02-05, consideration of MOU with Excelsior Springs Hospital for lab services.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 6 is an ordinance amending Chapter 600 of the City Code of the City of Excelsior Springs by adding Article 3 Entertainment District to allow for the open consumption of alcohol in designated areas. Melinda?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. You have before you this evening for your consideration an amendment to Chapter 600, which allows us to create an entertainment district in our downtown area. You have a map that was set at your table this evening that's a little larger than what's on your iPads to show you what those boundaries are. The entertainment district is something that's being done in other areas as well. It allows us to meet an economic vitality goal of addressing tourism and trying to grow tourism in our community. And so DEP, in partnership with the city, hosted a meeting with our downtown businesses to ask for input from them. We received very positive response from those businesses in the district, and from that response crafted what you see before you this evening. So the entertainment district would allow a customer to leave a licensed established business with a drink or a maximum of 2 drinks, and in a branded clear container, and walk down the street and continue shopping within the district. They could walk to the new Lithia Landing and have a seat while they wait for their dinner table to open up. They could leave a restaurant and decide that they want to walk to Molly Roberts' studio or to Styles by Rye or Solana and shop or window shop along the way. And so that's the intent behind the entertainment district. The conversations we've had have allowed us to give consideration to the hours. The businesses requested that those be 7 days a week from, I believe it's 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Some ask why we weren't going till 11 p.m., which is when we close down music, outdoor music. We felt like 10 p.m. was an appropriate time to close that down and give us some time to be able to close that down before we close down music. We would see an increase in traffic or in trash containers in the district, so that is one of the things that we were asked about. This also allows a business to take take a beverage and maybe sit outside on the tables in front of Ventana and actually have a glass of wine with your dinner. So those are the pieces that you see in the ordinance. Would entertain any questions you may have for me this evening?
So I received some questions specific to this, and I know, Julia, you have some specifics. I won't speak for you, but as the liaison to SAFE here, we've been having several conversations, and while I understand the intent, I just want to be sure that the ordinance itself results in the intent and not something that maybe we didn't plan on. I also had a question specific to the listening post. Mark, I know you said council was involved. It must have been in some of the other hundreds of emails that I maybe did not pay attention to, but were the invitees to that listening post just the downtown businesses, or was it the public at large, specifically maybe those that are borderline on the residential side of that district?
So that was to our downtown businesses to discuss the concepts and get their feedback. It was not, it wasn't one of our general listening posts like we have done in the past when we did medical marijuana or the RFQ at the airport, where we invite all of the public to attend that. So it was just specific those downtown businesses, and DEP hosted it at Casa de Vite, and we were there to help present.
Okay. I mean, I think on something that is going to change the look and feel a little bit of our downtown, I think having an opportunity to have some input from everyone in the community, not just, if I'm a business within that district, I would see a hard time voting against it or opposing it in any way, but other citizens might have concerns that we haven't really thought about.
I felt at the meeting that many of the businesses made comments that resulted in changes to what the ordinance is as it was presented, and felt like they were very serious about reviewing and having conversations clarify what certain provisions meant. So I felt like in that regard, the purpose for having the meeting to get their feedback, so it came to us in a form that would work for the businesses, achieve that purpose. So.
And one of the things that this particular ordinance does that isn't common in ordinances is a semi-annual or 6-month review process. So every 6 months, this is reviewed, and it will be reviewed by a committee, and we've invited Julia Meese as the SAFE representative to actually sit on that committee with us. We anticipate we would have police, SAFE, city staff, DEP, and DEP representatives, businesses, as well as community members, to actually share with us, okay, so is it working? Because the intent is not to, if we're doing this really well, we're not seeing a significant change in our downtown. We never want to go back to what we had 40 years ago, because this is a tourism area. The majority of the visitors from here come from outside the area, and we want to encourage them to shop our district. And so that's the intent behind this. And so we do have a process for reviewing it. So if there are concerns, there is a process for saying, hey, this isn't working because I'm seeing this in my neighborhood, or I'm seeing an increase of this particular incident, or or it's working really well. We're seeing our revenues go up from a business perspective. We're not seeing an issue with trash, debris. We're not seeing an issue with police calls for activity down here that is unbecoming of a tourism district. And so that's what that 6-month review is, and that will be an ongoing process, because we too don't want to see a negative impact of this particular program. And I don't mean to speak for DEP, but I think DEP fully supports the fact that we don't want to see, we're prepared to pull it if we see that it's not generating the environment that we think is positive to the district for tourists and the community.
So are those measures, and I'm sorry, I don't want to speak for you, Julia, I'll let you get to your questions in a moment, but are those measures of what is success, what are not success, defined before we get to that 6-month period? Or
Yes.
are we looking at the 6-month period? And I mean, I understand, revenue, but sometimes if the revenue starts to overcloud the other things, maybe that can take a higher priority. So I'm just trying to figure out what those measures of success look like in advance of that.
So that committee's
review
going to,
period.
very good question. That committee's going to need to sit down and actually pull what are those data points? What measurement tool is it? Is there an increase in activity from a police reporting standpoint? Is it a minor in possession increase? Is it what are those data points? And do we see more visitors coming to the area? Do we see them staying longer because they're shopping the district? Are we seeing, so we'll set out those whole data points. This actual program won't come into effect. We need several months to get it ready, because we need to, well, first off, Lindsay's going to need to acquire the branded container that's going to be required to be used. And so we know that's a 6 to 8 month process. We can bring back a policy to you that shows you what those data points are that we're going to be measuring, and who those committee members could be.
Could we, in that same 6 to 8 months, maybe solicit feedback, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but would the entertainment district include the live music you've referred to? And if I'm living along Excelsior or some of the perimeters around this area, with a typical Friday night in my house might sound and look a little bit
change?
different.
So this particular ordinance does not address the entertainment that happens. That's happening through our special event permits. And so when somebody wants to have an outside music event, we're doing that through a special event permit.
So that remains unchanged.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Julia,
Julia,
did you want to speak?
Yeah. Want me to?
You have to come to the podium, please. So you'll be in our camera view.
Good evening.
Smile at Jason.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. So I'm Julia Meese. I'm the Program Director for Excelsior Springs Safe, and we're a local prevention coalition. We're mainly focused on preventing youth substance use and addiction. So the main thing I just kind of want to talk to you about is just the importance of policy surrounding substances in our community, in all communities. In prevention, as a prevention specialist, I've learned that the policies you put into place and the environmental changes that you can make are actually the most impactful thing you can do to prevent youth substance use, right? So we've got like the programs in school that tell kids that substances are bad and all that type of thing, but more importantly is the environment that they're living in and that they're growing up in, okay? It's harder for kids to say no to drugs and alcohol when they're surrounded by drugs and alcohol, right? So like we wouldn't say, we're trying to get kids to stop eating chocolate and then have a whole bunch of adults eating Hershey Kisses in our downtown, right? Because it's just like not an environmental thing that's easy for kids to make the right choice if it's all around, right? So you know, this community has really led the way with many substance use policies in the past 30 years. SAFE has existed for over 30 years. There's a lot of people in this room that have been a part of some really great alcohol policies. Excelsior Springs led the way with keg registration in the state, was the first one to have keg registration. Excelsior Springs has really sound substance use policies. And we've seen great progress over the past 30 years in our youth substance use rates. We're making great progress. And, you know, when I'm a part of these conversations in this community and people are all fired up about how we have a problem with addiction in our community, substance use in our community, it starts with youth use, okay? Adults don't just become addicted overnight. It starts with youth use, and when you start as a youth, you're more likely to become addicted as an adult, right? So that's why we're focused on the environment that youth grow up in our community. And we know that a huge thing we can do is policy surrounding that. So when I found out about this yesterday, as I read my email in the Excelsior Citizen, I thought, wow, this is a huge change. Excelsior has worked for 30 years trying to put all this stuff into place. And we've had all these conversations and all these people at the table. And just a month ago, I was in a room of 50 plus community leaders that were saying, yeah, there's social determinants of health and all these things fit together for the health of our community. And our community has lower quality of life and life expectancy and a lot of measures than other surrounding areas. And what we can do about this is put health in all policies. We want to look at all policies, every policy, every sector of our community puts into place. We want to prioritize health, right? So I'm like, when I read this, this has a huge impact. Open container laws have a huge impact. This isn't something that we should just decide like immediately and just go with it for the future. This open container laws are in place because years of prevention research has shown that this makes a difference. So, you know, when you're considering this, it's not like we can just try it out for a bit and then take it back necessarily, because a lot of things are going to be into play. And you know, like Stephen said, when you're trying to decide whether it's made a difference in 6 months, how do you balance the economic benefit versus the health benefit, right? I think it's much easier to do on the front end of that. So, you know, I guess I would just leave you with the question of how does this proposal fit into our stated priorities of wanting to make this a healthier place to live? So I can answer questions if people have them now or in the future. I'm happy to always provide sources and information for different prevention-related policy questions. It's something I'm very passionate about, but Excelsior Springs is moving in really the right direction, and I want to keep that moving in the right direction for sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Am I all out of questions?
No, you can.
Melinda, I have one more question. You mentioned that several other communities have done this.
Mhm.
Do we have their data points at their 6 month, year, 2 years? What types of issues or commentary might they have for a community that's embarking on something like this for the first time?
So we've not heard negative reporting back from those communities that have had it. I don't think other communities are talking about a data point review. I think this is what makes us stand out and makes us different than other communities, is our willingness to continue to evaluate and evolve the program. And so other communities aren't doing that at this point that we're aware of.
So nothing they would change or that they changed short into it?
I have to look at Lindsay to see, you're welcome to come up, but to see if you've had any of those conversations.
I have talked with several. That's where we pooled the sample ordinance you are looking at. Some of them are large-scale downtowns that have dissected it into various different entertainment districts. Some have been small. They have set it up to where there is a review process. None have shared their specific data points with me, but I think those data points also probably should be set by individual community, because those are going to look a little bit different to each person. I know that I did have the opportunity to meet with Julia earlier today. I shared my perspective for why. I understand hers. I think we both want the long things in the long term. We've talked that this is also the perfect opportunity for us to do better liquor dispensing education for our business owners and our servers in the industry. I also talked with Julia and then shared with Molly and Melinda later that when we do have our child-friendly events such as Christmas, that becomes a date in which this is not an option, because we don't want to put that around our youth. And I think that's why when Julia and I met today, I said, I think it would be great for you to have a seat on this review committee so that we can have your perspective that we normally would not have.
One of the things that I learned is several months ago, Lindsay invited Melinda and I to attend the Main Street Conference that was in Kansas City. And one of the presentations that I attended was about looking for more active uses in downtown, which would be like maybe pickleball courts or some sort of active uses that would serve another audience for people visiting your downtown. And so this sort of fit with that, because you could, you're sort of stuck inside if that's what you're doing, but if you're going to play pickleball and sit outside and watch, then that extended that. So it was kind of making the outside a part of that, what you're trying to create, those active uses. And I can't recall what some of the other active uses were, but maybe it was just picnic tables or something you're watching someone else perform or do. Just being, extending the attraction and you know, the draw to your downtown.
We did exclude from our boundaries Pyburn Park just because one, there's a playground there. Two, it is a kid-activated area for us, so we drew the boundaries so that you wouldn't be able to get a drink at, say, Broadway Bar and Grill and walk down and watch a child play ball. That's not an approved use. And so we were trying to be sensitive to that. I just whispered in Lindsay's ear the homecoming parade would be another day that we would exclude from the beverage, the outside beverage, the entertainment district.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense in those special events, but I'm thinking, okay, First Fridays. I see people, you know, bringing their kids down, so that might look a little bit different on a
Will, because there's
Friday.
no such thing as second Fridays moving forward.
Yeah.
That's a discontinued event moving
Oh,
forward.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, you know, that the pandemic in 2020 taught us is that people want to feel safe, but they still want to congregate. Mm-hmm. And this allows people a safe environment to congregate in an outdoor atmosphere. We have a beautiful downtown. Thank you so much for all the work that you've done. And people can come down and enjoy live music, you know, at times. They can enjoy the murals that we have. You do a great job with the planters, with the flowers. You're working on signage. You know, we're growing our downtown, but it is also a tourism attraction, and we need to be able to serve people, you know, in a sensible way. And so I think that you're looking at this in a logical format, moving forward with a safe community.
Thank you.
I feel like that has some controls. If you could remember what it was like in the 80s, it was sort of a free-for-all, and there were always negative aspects after the drinking. And you're not experiencing that now, because there's businesses and purpose for coming downtown, where in the 80s there really wasn't much of any business in operation, and the purpose was gone. And so it's really a different environment. I think none of us would want to turn the ship to head back there and want to continue to have those purposes that make this a district that we are having a reason to come to and be proud of. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me.
One of the things that I took away from the listening post that we had was that the businesses were talking that they are the ones who are going to be the biggest policemen of what is going on, and they have agreed that they would take the responsibility of saying, no, you can't bring that drink into my restaurant because that came from a liquor license of a different liquor, you know. And they have agreed that they will take on the responsibility of policing this. And I assume that that would extend to the point where if there are people that are not behaving appropriately, that they would be the ones who would report this to law enforcement or whoever it needs to be reported to, and kind of self-police, because it will all totally reflect, and if it goes bad, it's going to go bad for the businesses. So I think that they understand that, and they've talked about taking that responsibility on as they move forward with this. Is that right, Lindsay? Is that right?
I wonder what the data points look like. As we're concerned about our community at large, and I commend SAFE for the efforts that have taken so long and a lot of energy to build this prevention program. But I wonder what the data points look like as far as the amount of youth that come down here. We're building a tourism district down here, and so it's kind of different than the community at large. And how many locals actually come and shop downtown Excelsior Springs? I think we saw in the Placer EI that most of our tourists are from out of state. I think there was 353 out of 5 something were from out of state.
The other thing I will add with, I can't be quoted, but if I remember correctly from the walkthrough we did on the replica software that the city just partnered with to get from the county, Placer doesn't have the ability to do a demographic age breakdown. Replica does. So with the replica software, we should be able to have that. And I think like 6-year-olds have cell phones now, so we should get a very good picture of what that looks like.
I think we should be concerned about that.
Yes, there's another concern we have no control over.
So I heard Melinda say we need several months to get it ready. That's something that she said. And it's a concern to me that we haven't solicited feedback from a broader cross-section of the community than the downtown business district. And with that, at least for my part, I'd like to see a more complete public participation process that precedes a decision on this. I'd like to see some more specifics in terms of what a review process would look like. That's just kind of the feedback that I have.
Does something like that fit within your time frame? I mean, if there's 6 to 8 months kind of to get...
It probably doesn't have to be that long. It would be heavily dependent upon trash can wait time, depending on where they're at, what they're available.
Okay.
The cups would take more like 6 to 8 weeks.
But if we were to table it, have further discussion on it, that's not detrimental to you for another meeting or even a couple of meetings to solicit feedback? Okay.
You should. Yes, you may.
Madam Mayor, City Council. My name is Christy Schul. I am running for City Council. I also am president of the Slightly Off Broadway Theater Board, and I also live at 407 East Broadway in downtown Excelsior Springs. So I have a plethora of areas to talk about this. I've raised 4 children in this town. I now have 8 grandchildren in this town with a 9th one on the way. I commend you and you're safe. My kids have always been proactive with substance, non-substance abuse. We've always handled, they've never like dabbled in that. They've never had the public drunkenness or substance abuse or anything like that. My question with all of this blow up of what is it going to do for the youth, what does it do for the youth when they are at a restaurant, Broadway Bar and Grill for Taco Tuesday or Ventana with their families, and they see their parents slamming them back, or they're watching people at the bar slamming them back? It has to start in the home with education and accountability. And my thought, while we as a theater said we would be part of the district, but we don't have a liquor license, but if somebody from Ventana wanted to eat and get a glass of wine to go and bring it into our theater, we were okay with that. But I agree with you that I think it comes down to the businesses policing they have a responsibility to not serve if they feel that someone is more than intoxicated than what they should be. And so my thought is this: I agree that if you want to have the downtown constituents that live downtown have a forum, by all means set one. I don't think you're going to get the people there that you want there, because there's a lot of them that they don't care. They don't care about the issues. And that came out to light when we had the Meet the Candidates forum this weekend. Everybody that was there already probably knew what nobody really asked questions. There was nobody that I didn't know that came to meet us. So those that want to be involved and want to have a voice are going to have that voice. You can set up a forum, but I don't think you're going to get the results that you're really wanting. I, for one, am in support of the entertainment district, even though I don't really have a dog in this fight because we don't have a liquor license at the theater. But I do have a dog in this fight because I live downtown, and I live down by Broadway Bar and Grill. So I still fall back on the fact that it starts at home. When we're talking about youth and education, it starts at home. And if mom and dad are going to take them down to Broadway Bar and Grill and slam the beers back while they're eating tacos on Taco Tuesday, what kind of message is that conveying when we have people from out of town coming, shopping our businesses, increasing our revenue and our sales tax, and keeping our businesses afloat downtown that need to be kept afloat? Doors are closing right and left because they can't get the business. And if this is one step that could possibly help that, I'm all in favor of it.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. Well, I think that Ms. Shule makes a good point, too, that she's aware of it. It's clear that she's passionate about it. I think that there are other people who would be passionate about it with lots of different perspectives if they knew about it. And I think that that piece of the puzzle hasn't been completely, filled out at this point. So.
Yes, you may.
So when you talk about people,
Good evening. I'm Susan Blazer. I own Casa de Vite Wine Cafe. I posted this on the U.S. Citizen earlier today so that I could get people. I thought everybody would be thrilled with it and get support. And when I deleted it, there was 36 comments on there. And the majority of those were, "This is the dumbest idea I've ever heard." But I don't see anybody in this room tonight that showed up for this meeting. They put it on Facebook and they want to make a comment, but nobody came down here to say that they were against it. So I think we can have a forum, like was stated earlier, but I don't know if you're going to get, people are going to, they might grumble and rumble about it, but to actually show up and express that, I don't know if you're going to make any difference with that. I am a brand new business, and all I want to do is see Excelsior Springs be successful. And I think this entertainment district is going to be a huge success. I want to put an outside seating cafe, Italian cafe outside of my building, and I want to be able to serve my wine slushies for people who want to come by in the hot summertime. And if they want to walk across the street and go shopping or go upstairs and have a dance lesson, I want them to be able to do that, because when they get done dancing an hour, they're going to come back and they're going to spend more money at my place. And that's the whole idea, is for us to support all the other businesses around here. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Another hand.
I just had a question. Who would be funding these cups? Is that going to be on the city and taxpayer dollars, or is that the businesses?
You need to come up and state your name.
Sorry. My name is Miranda Jameson. I'm with the Excelsior Springs Standard. I was just curious who would be funding the cups, if that's on the city, if that's on DEP.
DEP.
And then is there any concern on, I know that the businesses are going to be policing, but there's a lot of young bartenders, and if they overserve someone, they're the ones who are liable. So is there going to be like any way to know how many drinks they've gotten from each business before they show up? Because if they come in there for 2 seconds, no, the bartender's not going to know how much they've had to
You
drink.
have that issue anyway.
Right. I just didn't know if there was any way of knowing how many
You're
cups
from
or.
They can come from home.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that's just an issue that's. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
All right, Jim, state your name and.
Madam Mayor, member of the council, my name's Jim Rice. I too am running for city council. I've heard some of the concerns. I am in favor, generally in favor, of the entertainment district. I think we need it. But what I would encourage the council to consider, and it really should be considered anyways, there is free training available through the state of Missouri. I was a bartender at Atlas for a little while. I took the training, it's free. Everyone who handles the liquor should be required to take those tests. It's online, free, easy to go. The other thing I heard mentioned was that we're a little concerned about underage drinking. Along with the cups, could we not also do a band, an armband that identifies someone that has had their ID checked? There are ways to deal with this that benefits the downtown business district. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to add that I am in favor. I was at the listening district with Sharon. We were the only two council members there. I'm in full support of this. However, my only concern was when we began to hear some feedback that the entire community was not allowed to speak into it. I said maybe we could hit the pause button on it. And but I really strongly support this measure because I like what has been happening in the downtown. I like the momentum that we've gained, and I too remember the 80s. I was a part of that. But yeah, a lot of it I don't remember, but I do remember the darkness and the dilapidation, and we've come a long way, and I would hate to see us lose that momentum.
I think that we've had really good discussion tonight,
Uh-huh.
and we're not in a hurry, and we don't have to be in a hurry.
Right.
That there's plenty of room for more discussion before we make this decision. I'm okay with that, Mark. I don't think we have any reason we have to vote on this tonight. But you know, it would be great if the public would come and give us their opinions, and this is really the best platform for doing that.
We
is
can
to,
hope.
to come to your council meetings.
Yeah.
But I, you know, I'm in favor of the district also. So.
And I know Lindsay has had conversations with Chief Dole, but I think it would be important if we're having a public forum to hear from law enforcement how this is going to impact them, and how it's impacted other communities, and maybe alleviate those concerns that we're bothered with.
Well, I would say, what do you need from us? Because there's many things we can't move forward with until we approve this.
Right.
Otherwise, it just sits, and I need to know what Lindsay needs from us.
Yeah, and I've heard loud and clear. I've been on the receiving end of that. If, you know, you throw a party and no one comes. But I think being able to say you had an invitation to come and share your feedback is the piece that's missing here. So I think that's kind of step number one, is a well-publicized, if you have an opinion on this or a perspective on this, come share that. I think
Can
would
we
be
shut
a
off
really
Facebook
good
comments during that time?
idea. Well, yeah, could be a in-person event as
Yes.
opposed to a social media that can take on a life of its own, as we all know.
So the only thing I would ask, again, I agree, there's no reason to rush something. I think we can all agree, like, progress takes change, and there's a lot of pieces that go along with that. My ask would be, like, as opposed to us just saying table it and it gets buried, like, is there a discussion that where we can have a time frame on which you would like this information you're requesting presented to you, when you would like this forum to occur, so that we can revisit again?
So what in your mind would be an acceptable, I mean, I don't want to put a time crunch on you to have any follow-up or feedback from people, other communities, law enforcement, some of the things we've talked about here.
I would imagine that I could have feedback from communities and compiled into a report for you in less than a week. I mean, they're at my fingertips to have those conversations with. That's where a bulk of our ideas came from, was through those relationships. The other piece is going to be the publication of having said forum and then hosting it and then being able to compute all of that data. So I would assume, I wouldn't think any more than a month would probably be necessary to accommodate all of those items.
I'm looking for a motion to table this for 1 month, I believe.
Mayor needs to do her thing.
An ordinance amending Chapter 600 of the City Code of the City of Excelsior Springs by adding Article 3 Entertainment District to allow for open consumption of alcohol in designated areas.
I move that we table ordinance number 23-02-06, consideration of amending Chapter 600 to include an entertainment district.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who's
Thank
spoken this
you,
evening.
everyone.
And
Thank
Julia,
you.
thank you too, because don't stop educating your professionals up here, because we need that too, and public education is so important for everyone. Thank you.
Ordinance number 7. An ordinance amending section 600.120G1 to allow for, that's different.
No, this is a second ordinance.
This is the second ordinance. You'll need to table this as well.
Okay. Alcohol in designated areas.
I make a motion that we table ordinance number 23-02-07, consideration of amendment to section 600.120G1 of the municipal code.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay. Agenda item number 8 is an ordinance amending Chapter 230, Article 8 and 9 relating to the use of vapor products.
You can have this if you like. The attached ordinance is really a housekeeping amendment to the smoking ordinance. Our current ordinance did not specifically address vaping. The amendment will include vaping restrictions in the same situations where and when smoking is restricted. The word tobacco is also removed, so vaping is not just restricted when tobacco is being used, but when any other substance might be used as a vape product. So,
Any questions on that? Okay, we have an ordinance amending Chapter 230, Article 8 and 9 relating to the use of vapor products.
I make a motion, we take ordinance number 23-02-08, consideration of amending section 230.645 and section 230.691 of the municipal code to second reading.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. An ordinance amending Chapter 230, Articles 8 and 9 relating to the use of vapor products.
I move we approve ordinance number 23-02-08, consideration of amending section 230.645 and section 230.691 of the municipal code.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear,
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay, and
I was adopting the
agenda item number 9 is an ordinance amending Title 7, Section 720.040 of the Municipal Code to allow a summer reduction in sewer use credits.
Nothing to do with vaping.
Staying away from it.
That's right. For your consideration is ordinance amendment talking about the municipal code for the reduction in summer sewer use credits. And this is going to change the time frame. I think there was some discussion prior that we wanted to extend that. We have customers and residents that like to do their lawns in the fall. And this would change that usage to July, August, September, and October. Those billings would be done in August, September, October, and November. Calculations based on an average, just like we've had in the past. And I would be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
I think since our conversation on Friday morning, we have received some additional information that may.
Did you want to speak?
I saw that.
Okay, we have some people.
Okay.
Carol would like to speak.
What's that?
Well,
Okay.
I don't want to step on any toes.
All I was saying is we've received some additional information that I think may influence our decision on this. And we were trying to hit kind of a middle of the road because we talked about people who water early in the season. Those are the gardeners, and people who are using a lot of water at the end of the season are yardners. So we were kind of trying to please the yardners and the gardeners. And but I would be in favor of tabling this to have further discussion on this.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't want to jump in front of you, but Chad, you were kind enough to provide me with where my head went was, okay, what's the water usage by month? And just looking at that, I would agree with that concept of having that data, looking at, Andrew, I know you and I were talking before the meeting, maybe even doing the Olympic average, right? Throw out the highest, throw out the lowest to create the average, something along those lines.
Back to July, August.
Well, no, throwing out the lowest usage month and the highest usage month to calculate the average that determines what's your benchmark for the overage on the credits.
It might be a smaller difference over more months and come to a similar point, but I think that the broader point is that we would need more time to evaluate what those differences could be. So, I mean, in short, the data that Chad showed us shows that there's more months than just those 4 months that have elevated usage. If the idea behind that is that, you know, that's not going into the sewers, then maybe we should take just another look at those months. And if the financial piece of it doesn't work out at face value, maybe there are some ways that the calculation could be changed somewhat so that it was spread more evenly over 6 months. But the point is that the conversation would need to happen to be able to look at that a little bit more.
Right, and I think on Friday morning, all we were looking at was the numbers on the bottom line, which you're a bottom line kind of girl.
Yep.
So
Yep.
appreciate
Yeah.
you providing those
Yeah.
numbers. But
And-
that's
right.
all we were looking at.
Right, yeah. And, you know, I kind of want to point out, too, that if I go back to the last analysis that I presented to you, the per month average for the people that do sign up for summer sewer credit, their average credit per month is $29.14.
Okay.
So, and even though that does calculate to lost revenue per month of almost $12,000 when you total those together. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that. So
Is the 12,000 the net number we were looking at, or
There-
is that the increased water?
sewer and water are separate. They are totally separate funds. And as far as our auditors are concerned, you cannot net those two. One fund does not equate the other fund.
I'm not looking to
They're
move
separate.
the numbers, but I think it has to be a holistic view of, hey, we have increased. If all we're going to look at is the revenue and the cost, it's going to be, I have increased water rates that I'm billing, but I think where our conversation was going Friday is again, looking at the data of what is the increased months, if we have a really good indicator that those dollars aren't, or those water usage is not going down the sewer system, it's difficult to charge someone for that.
Right, and I don't know how you would get to a bottom line knowing actually for sure that it's not going down our system. And that's where we rely on people to sign up for that. We rely
Right.
on those averages, and I think I'd kind of given you some information regarding the cities around us and what they do also. So
Yeah.
I know you're never going to make every single person happy about it.
Well, and it's going to be a moving target too, right?
It is.
We have weather in the Midwest.
You know,
so
we talked to.
You could have 20 inches of rain in the month of May and no one's watering anything.
Right, and we talk to customers, like I've relayed to you before, on a daily basis about their water usage, so that we can run reports for them when they think they've got a leak, and we can actually see, hour by hour usage for that particular meter. So I mean, I understand, I understand, but at some point we're going to have to make a decision, because we do have to, changing it to 4 months is going to requires management on our part in the finance office.
Right.
I've still got to contact our system to have them make some data changes so that we can even do this after we do our averages. So I want to keep that in mind too.
And Bona, that's something we discussed. We want to make sure that you have time for implementation. So
Right.
I guess my question would be, would one meeting later be something that you'd still be able to do implementation?
I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
Good.
I think so.
And if I may, the numbers I was asked to provide is just the total gallons pumped to town from the water plant, and then from March through October, and then versus also the total gallons billed to consumers inside city limits. So that's the numbers that they're looking at.
Okay.
Do you still want to speak? Okay.
She made the effort
Sure.
to come down.
Yeah.
She should get to speak.
Madam Mayor, Council, Carol Baxter, thank you for responses to the messages I sent today, you four. I really appreciate it. Please know I am a gardener. I am a flower gardener, a vegetable gardener. I've been doing it for years. So when I saw that, what you were proposing, I thought, are you kidding me? October? I'm doing cool weather vegetables during that time that don't need as much water. My concern is June, July, and August usage. May, we get rain. Don't have to worry about that. But I'm worried about rooting my vegetables because I supply all my friends and myself with vegetables for the winter. So it's a concern for me. I also say if you, Andrew, want the city to give feedback on the entertainment district, why aren't we asking for it on the sewer? Same thing, same concept. Why aren't we putting it out there to say, we want input. Tell us what months work for you for the summer sewer. So I appreciate all the feedback you gave me today in emails, appreciate your contact. So just think about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we will proceed with an ordinance amending Title VII, Section 720.040 of the Municipal Code to allow for summer reduction of sewer charges.
I make a motion that we table ordinance number 23-02-01, consideration of amendment to the summer sewer credit program.
Second. Go ahead, Andrew.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Spawn,
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski,
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear.
Yes.
Mayor Powell.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, ordinance number 10, allowing claims and appropriating to pay the same by issuing checks out of various funds of the city.
I make a, oh, were you gonna?
Present? Absolutely.
I guarantee you we're not gonna table this one.
Appropriations. Appropriations presented for your approval. The total is $1,930,376.65. Breakdown on February the 3rd, appropriations $635,291.47. Appropriations on February the 8th of $932,912.14. And payroll on February the 15th of $362,173.04 for total for your approval, $1,930,376.65. I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, an ordinance allowing claims and appropriating to pay the same by issuing checks out of various funds of the city.
I move we take ordinance number 23-02-10, consideration of appropriations, to second reading.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Councilman Spawn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes. An ordinance allowing claims and appropriating to pay the same by issuing checks out of various funds of the city.
I move that we approve ordinance number 23-02-10, consideration of appropriations.
Second.
Roll call, Shannon?
Councilman Kowalski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Morgan?
Yes.
Councilman Spawn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Spear?
Yes.
Mayor Powell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we have remarks by city manager.
On your transmittals, you'll see a wayfinding proposal for your review, and I think you might have seen it last Friday, but it's also still on your agenda for you to see. I wanted to thank Julia for conversations today, very helpful and appreciated. I was able to visit with an Eagle Scout today who's making plans for an Eagle Scout project on the city property. So very exciting to see him and his parents talk about his plans. The last thing I'd share is email today that the Community Revitalization Grant is still expecting to make an announcement during February. That's the grant we applied for the Hall of Waters. They received 203 applications requesting $274 million, and they have $100 million to give out. So I think we have a 30% chance. Hopefully we're in the top 30% chance. So.
I want to thank Melinda for arranging the tour that we had of the Hall of Waters Friday morning after the council. It was very informative, and good things are happening in this building. I'm so happy about that. So, thank you.
I hope you're as excited about concrete.
Yes, I'm excited about concrete.
And I think we were all saddened that no one saw the lady in the red dress.
Too early.
The ghost.
Too early.
Oh yeah, she's the resident ghost.
Yeah. Stephen?
Had an opportunity to attend the Meet the Candidates, so that was very well attended and a lot of good conversation last Saturday.
Nothing further.
I just wanted to thank all the extra folks who are here tonight. It's good to see fresh faces and folks who aren't here every week. This is what public participation is supposed to look like, so thank you for taking the time out of your lives and days to come and give your feedback.
Yeah, thank you all for coming. I had the opportunity to give the benediction for Mayor Quentin Lucas's prayer breakfast last week, and that on Thursday when it was so icy, and my neighbor very graciously volunteered and drove me down. So, because I have a broken foot. And, but anyway, that was a very nice event, and if you ever have an opportunity to go to his prayer breakfast, it's always very uplifting. So, nothing else, we are adjourned.
This is not a record meeting. Yeah, my tablet was dying.